Escape the endless scroll with the One Islam TV app, your halal entertainment solution on all platforms. One God, one message, one purpose of life. Subscribe now. The situation of the Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, China, has garnered global attention due to widespread reports of oppression, including the conversion of mosques into entertainment venues, restrictions on religious practices, and other human rights violations. The Chinese government's actions in Xinjiang, which is home to around 12 million Uyghur Muslims, have raised concerns about the systematic erasure of Uyghur culture and Islam in the region. The conversion of mosques. One of the most alarming trends in Xinjiang is the transformation of mosques into secular spaces, such as entertainment venues, cafes, and cultural centers. This is part of a broader campaign aimed at restricting the Uyghurs' ability to practice their religion freely. A mosque in Xinjiang had been converted into a bar and entertainment venue. The mosque, a sacred place of worship, was stripped of its religious significance, with Islamic symbols and architectural elements removed or altered. The building was then repurposed for secular use, further symbolizing the erasure of Islamic identity from the region. The conversion of mosques into entertainment centers represents not just a physical alteration, but also an assault on the Uyghur community's spiritual and cultural identity. Mosques are not just places for prayer. They are hubs of community, learning, and social engagement. The deliberate conversion of these spaces strips away a critical aspect of the Uyghur Muslims' religious life, disrupting their connection to Islam and to each other. Demolition of mosques. In addition to converting mosques, the Chinese government has been demolishing Islamic places of worship across Xinjiang. Satellite imagery and on-the-ground reports indicate that thousands of mosques have been destroyed or severely damaged in recent years. Some estimates suggest that more than 16,000 mosques in Xinjiang have been either partially or completely demolished as part of a broader campaign to suppress Islamic practices. The destruction of mosques is not random. It is targeted at eradicating the Islamic culture of the Uyghur people. Many of the demolished mosques were centuries old and held deep cultural and historical significance. Their loss represents not only a spiritual blow, but also the erasure of Uyghur heritage. Restrictions on the Quran and religious texts. Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang also face severe restrictions when it comes to owning religious texts, including the Quran. Reports suggest that Uyghurs caught in possession of the Quran or other Islamic literature face harsh punishments, including imprisonment. The Chinese government has also confiscated religious books from Uyghur homes, further restricting their access to religious knowledge and practice. This suppression of religious text is part of a larger campaign aimed at disconnecting the Uyghur Muslims from their Islamic faith. Without access to the Quran, a central pillar of Islam, it becomes difficult for Uyghurs to practice their religion fully. The government's actions have also included the banning of religious education for Uyghur children, preventing them from learning about their faith from a young age. Surveillance and religious persecution. The restrictions on Uyghur Muslims extend beyond the destruction of mosques and the banning of religious texts. The Chinese government has implemented a sophisticated surveillance system in Xinjiang that tracks every aspect of Uyghur life. Uyghur Muslims are constantly monitored with their movements, communications, and daily activities recorded by the government. Facial recognition technology, artificial intelligence, and mobile phone tracking are all employed to keep Uyghurs under constant surveillance. This surveillance is particularly intense around religious practices. Uyghurs who pray regularly, fast during Ramadan, or engage in other religious activities are often flagged by the government and subjected to interrogation, harassment, or even detention. The government has also banned certain Islamic practices, including wearing veils, growing beards, and fasting during Ramadan. Uyghur Muslims who do not comply with these restrictions face the threat of imprisonment in one of Xinjiang's infamous re-education camps. The re-education camps. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the Chinese government's treatment of Uyghur Muslims is the mass detention of Uyghurs in so-called re-education camps. Human rights organizations estimate that over 1 million Uyghurs have been detained in these camps where they are subjected to forced indoctrination, forced labor, and other forms of abuse. In these camps, Uyghur Muslims are forced to renounce their Islamic faith and pledge loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party. They are also subjected to psychological and physical abuse, with reports of torture, forced sterilization, and other human rights violations emerging from former detainees. The Chinese government claims that these camps are aimed at combating extremism, but the reality is that they are part of a broader campaign to assimilate the Uyghurs and eradicate the religious and cultural identity. Cultural and religious erasure. The systematic oppression of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang is not limited to religious practices. It extends to their entire cultural and social existence. The Chinese government has targeted Uyghur language, traditions, and customs, seeking to replace them with Han Chinese culture. Schools in Xinjiang have shifted away from teaching in Uyghur and now primarily teach in Mandarin, further disconnecting the younger generation from their linguistic and cultural heritage. Traditional Uyghur festivals and celebrations have also been restricted, and Uyghur cultural expressions such as music, dance, and literature are tightly controlled. By erasing Uyghur culture and religion, the Chinese government is attempting to assimilate the Uyghurs into a homogenized Chinese identity, where their distinct cultural and religious identity is no longer recognized. International response. The international community has expressed outrage over the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, but concrete action has been limited. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, have documented extensive abuses and called for international intervention. Some countries, including the United States, have imposed sanctions on Chinese officials and companies involved in the persecution of Uyghurs. However, these measures have not yet led to a significant change in China's policies. China has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, claiming that its actions in Xinjiang are aimed at combating extremism and promoting stability. The Chinese government has dismissed the allegations of human rights abuses as lies and fabrications by Western countries. It continues to restrict access to Xinjiang for independent investors and journalists, making it difficult to fully assess the scale of the abuses taking place. The situation in Xinjiang represents one of the most significant human rights crises in recent history. The Chinese government's actions, including the conversion of mosques into entertainment venues, the demolition of religious sites, and the suppression of Uyghur Islamic practices, constitute a systematic campaign to erase the Uyghur Muslims' religious and cultural identity. The Uyghur community is facing an existential threat, as their ability to practice the religion, cultural traditions, and live in freedom is being stripped away. International pressure and awareness are critical to bringing attention to the plight of the Uyghur Muslims. While some efforts have been made, more action is needed to hold the Chinese government accountable for its actions and to protect the rights of the Uyghur people. We pray that Allah, the Most Merciful, grants our Uyghur Muslim brothers and sisters in China strength, patience, and relief from their hardship.
Have you checked out the One Islam TV app yet? Well, if you haven't, here is some feedback from those who have. Absolutely worth it, and an excellent service to provide with so many videos to choose from, and all ad-free. It's awesome that I can watch while working, listen to good lectures, and discuss with fellow Muslims all in one place. Without ads, I got tired of YouTube. This app has changed my life. This app is perfect. So many videos to choose from on all topics. May Allah reward those who made this app.